Tuesday, trybean Tuesday, 10 spot. Yay! What up though? How we doing? How we doing? It's good to be back. It's always a little bit of a hey, am I actually gonna do this trybean Tuesdays at 10 on the 10 spot? Yeah, man. Yeah, if I can, I will. Because I like it. I want to. And I feel like maybe there's some sort of mutual value exchange. Now, do I prepare for it as well as I should? No. Do I prepare for anything as well as I should? Also, no. Does it seem to stop me ever? Convincingly and continually, no. Not much into the preparation, people. I'm not. It's a weird thing because I think I rely on the fact that I believe I'm charming a little too much. I don't know if other people believe it, but I believe it. And I guess maybe that belief is so strong that I expect that it runs over to other folks. What do you think of that? Do you have that issue? Do you believe that you are that kind of charming? Uh, it could be worse, right? You could think that you're not charming. I feel like that would be worse. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, I want to talk about this best piece of advice I've ever gotten. I was 26 ish. Sounds right. It was one of my first jobs. If I'm really, really counting, it was holy shit. That job, that job, that job, that job. It was like my fifth job. I had some very what do they call them, false starts in football. I worked for a computer software training company when my very first job. I was still in grad school, but I had moved from Michigan to Columbus, Ohio. And so I was doing grad school like at nights and weekends. And so I needed a full-time job and I was selling this computer training. And I worked for a guy that was a software developer. And he was a nice fella and knew a lot about programming and opened a computer software training company. I don't know why I'm telling this story, but we're deep into it now. And he was not a salesperson by any stretch of the imagination. He was a programmer. And I, again, maybe it's because it's tied to my level of charm, thought I could pull off being a sales guy without any actual sales training. And that's not how that works, people. And he had an old dude that had a bunch of relationships that, ran around and opened some doors, but that guy never talked to me at all. So that was okay. I didn't mind that, but I didn't learn anything. And I was about 4 months into that job, and I would literally wake up, throw up, and then drive to work. And that's not a good scenario. And I don't care how old you are or who you are, but if you're dealing with that kind of nonsense, it is time to find new work. I then went to go work for a company that provided tools and stuff for manufacturing companies, and it was a great job. It was a route sales job. You'd go into the manufacturer, you'd go into their tool crib where they hold all the things, and you'd play show and tell with the guys that were working the lines. And it was interesting. I put thousands of miles on my car driving around central Ohio. Not a great place to just drive around aimlessly. And I remember I was at the 30-day mark, and I knew that they had to pay a fee to the recruiter for me. And I went into the boss. I said, "Don't pay that fee." So why? I said, "'Cause it's not working out." And he said, "You're doing great." And I said, "Yeah, no, I don't love it." He's like, "This is the easiest six-figure sales job you're ever gonna have. All you have to do is go talk to good old boys." And I said, "That's the problem. I don't like good old boys. Those aren't my people. I'm not going to start talking about country music. I'm not going to talk about beer. I'm not going to talk about NASCAR. I'll talk about beer, right? Don't get me wrong. I like beer. But that's not who I am." And so that didn't work. And then there were a couple other jobs. But we're finally at the best piece of advice. See how I string you along, people? You gotta make them wait for the big payoff. The best piece of advice that I have ever received came during this job. I was doing technical staffing So we would place people directly. We would place people on contract. I was a recruiter, right? I was a headhunter back in the day. And so it was really interesting because the way that business works, if you get people on a project, they bill every hour, and that's really cool. If you get someone placed directly, you get a giant check, normally 25 to 30% of their salary. And because you're placing IT people at the time, the salaries were 70 to $80,000, and we're still talking 25, 30 years ago, they were still making that kind of money. And so I had a guy, I had him lined up. He had the interview. He was getting the offer from the company. And the commission, I only got like 30% of the 25%. But the check the company was going to get was like $16,000 or $17,000. So for me, getting a check for almost $5,000 was a big deal. And I was stoked, jacked, excited, ready to spend all of it. Probably had already had it all spent all anyway. And I remember bouncing around the office, and my manager, who had worked at CompuServe before coming back to work at his mom's business and open this technical division, said, "Listen, I'm going to give you a piece of advice that my boss gave to me when I first started, and it served me well, and I think it'll serve you well." And I said, "Okay, what?" And he said, "You need to keep your highs low and your lows high." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "This business is volatile, man. You're dealing with people on all sides of the equation. You know, it's one thing to be able to sell the job to a candidate and get them to take an interview. It's another thing to be able to sell the candidate to the company and get them to take an interview. And then you've got to sell them on offering the position to the candidate and sell the candidate on actually taking the offer. And then you got to make sure that they actually do the thing, they accept it, they show up, they work for 60 days, and then you can actually start to celebrate once that check clears." Like, dude, you're harshing my mellow. What is up with that? He said, "I'm just saying there's a lot that can go wrong. So if you're going to be bouncing off the walls because you have this opportunity that may turn into something, you're going to want to temper that back, because what I know for sure, and what he was illustrating and pointing out, the higher we get in anticipation when we think something's going to happen, right? Before it happens, the harder we fall if it doesn't happen. So I really, really appreciated that advice. I thought that was an excellent insight, and it landed on me, even as a 26-year-old cocky kid, that there was something to that. And so, spoiler alert, that dude did not take the job. I did not get that $4,800 check. And yeah, I don't know if he has some good intuition, or the boss called him and said, "Hey, don't take this job, man. I want to watch this guy suffer." No, I'm kidding. That did not happen. It was a good lesson, though. It was a really good lesson. And as I aged and grew and read and learned, I stumbled across Buddhism, and Buddhism has a very interesting thing called the middle path, right? And so if you stay on the right side, where excitement and exhilaration and awesomeness live, right, and you veer too far off the middle path and get over to this area, yeah, it's exciting, it's exhilarating, it's awesome, right? But the farther you go away from the middle path, remember, life is a pendulum, right? There is a whole duality thing. So the farther you go over here, the farther you end up retreating over here, where despair and nastiness and depression and sadness live, right? So if you can stay toward the middle path, you may not get the exhilarating highs, but you avoid the debilitating lows. And I will tell you for a fact, having experienced from right to left, top to bottom, back to front, it's It's not a bad way to go. Yes, you miss out on the exhilarating highs. You do. But you miss out on the debilitating crawl into the fetal position, lay on the floor wanting to suck your thumb, debilitating lows too. And given the option, what you can do is you can continually move that middle closer to the highs, right? You get to set the midpoint. That's the secret. We get to determine what that middle way is. So, my middle way, after practicing for 20 some years, my middle path is, I mean, I'm not like bouncing around in joy every second of the day, but I'm pretty damn happy every second of the day. I'm calibrated for happy. I'm calibrated to fun. I'm calibrated to joy. Now, again, I'm not going to go off the rails and do a bunch of rails or whatever the case may be. A couple of you got that. Because that's not who I am. But I don't need to be doing that stuff, right? I can be joyous right here, right now. Part of the reason is I learned a long time ago, and you've probably maybe heard me say it. Once you find joy or peace or love or happiness or harmony or whatever it is that you seek, once you find that inside of you, you find it everywhere you go. So my heart is filled with joy. So I can be in a joyous mood anytime because I know where it is. I know where it lives. I don't have to go outside and look for it. I know it's in here. Right. So that's part of what this advice, this keep your highs low and your lows high, set me on a path to find that in me and keep it in me all day, everywhere I go. And so I write about this in the book, and you can find the book at findingharmonybook.com. And the book was called Finding Harmony in the Fucks You Give. And it's all about changing your mindset so you really know what matters to you and you can focus on those things, right? It's a 32 essay book that allows you to dig deep into you to say, why am I getting stressed? Why am I getting anxious? Why am I feeling overwhelmed? Why am I not having the joy? Why am I not finding my bliss? Because we spend too much time doing too many things that aren't aligned with who we want to be. So, this book is the way to put yourself in proper alignment with who you are destined to be. So, it's out there, man, and I'm excited about it, and it's good. And I just got off a networking event with my friend Mara Lise and a few other folks. And she said, "What are you trying to do?" And I said, "I'm trying to take this book and do a speaking tour with different collaborators across the country and across the globe where we partner together, we do an event, we split some revenue, I sell some books, and it's a good time." So those are things that are really, really appealing and of interest to me right now. So if you've got an audience and a group that is local, I'd love to have that conversation with you to see how we might be able to do something really, really cool together. So that's it. That's the try being on the 10 spot for this Tuesday. Come back next Tuesday. I'll have another interesting lesson. Yes, it will come from the book. Yes, I will promote the book because evidently that's what marketers do. And I'm trying to be a marketer now. Woo, fancy Terry. Um, but I'm really excited about it. I really am. And I want to share it. So it's on my heart to do that. So I'm going to keep working on doing that. You keep working on what you're doing. And if there's ever a way I can be of service to you, let me know. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful rest of the week. See ya.